Welcome to the Successfully Unemployed Show. My name is Dustin Heiner, and I'm here to help you learn how to quit that job, that just overbroke job, by any means possible. Today I'm super pumped to have a fantastic investor, business owner on the show to share with you how he and you can be successfully unemployed, as well as with everything he's done. Agostino, thank you so much for being on the show.
Dustin, thanks for having me on. Greatly appreciate it, man.
This is terrific. I love having investors as well as business owners. I mean, that's what, when you're an investor, yeah, you have properties that we invest in, but we own businesses. And with those businesses, they make us money, which is great. Plus, if you're able to be successfully unemployed, then hopefully you have 40 plus hours of your life back to build more businesses. So talk to us. What do you do right now to provide for yourself and your family without working that dead end job?
Well, I'll tell you what, the thing about a job, the thing about having a job is that they always pay you just enough to keep you there, right? It's almost like it's a weekly hit just to keep you in the office. So, and the thing is, I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. Since I was a kid, I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to have my own business. And the thing is that I went the route of tech. I was a technology kid. I was already writing code, and I was like 9 or 10 years old on my old Commodore, just sitting there writing code. Right. That's why I started my whole thing, and I went down the path of IT. My parents are the ones, they came over from Italy. So they're the ones that told me, oh, no, you don't want to be an entrepreneur. You want a job. You want to go work for someone, and you want to go get a 40-hour work week and all that fun stuff. And I listened to my parents. I was a good Italian boy. It's what a good Italian boy does, right? Thing is, that's the wrong answer, but it took me a while to figure that out. But I'll tell you, man, it's certainly it's not easy doing what we do today. Currently we manage 3 lines of business. We have our multifamily acquisition. We do development, which is a big part of our business today, and the net lease business. I'm not going to tell you it's all sunshine and rainbows every day. Some days are worse than others, but I'll tell you what, I'll take a bad day doing what I do over a good day in working in corporate any day of the week. I'm not slamming corporate. Corporate's fine for a lot of people, just not fine for me. That's all I'm saying about it, right? But
I'll definitely slam corporate. I'm everybody needs to figure out a way to work from working for somebody else. It's so much better if you're independent, right? I mean,
yeah.
Obviously everybody's going to have their own, but I just personally, everybody, you don't know what you're missing if you get out of that and you literally have your own time back. So sorry, I interrupted. Keep going.
No, it's fine. It's fine. And that's the thing. I mean, it's certainly somewhat tough to do, right? I think the hardest part is getting started. The hardest part is getting started, because I'll tell you, I've been fired from a lot of jobs. All right. Like I said, I want to be an employee, and a lot of companies would often catch wind of you wanting to be, an entrepreneur. And next thing you know, you're out, you hit the skids, you're out. And I attached my personal well-being, my personal worth to a job, to a title. And it's totally not the case. Once you're able to let that go, your life changes a great deal. And that's what it took for me. I mean, it took a while, because I was a C-level executive working at these fairly large companies as a CIO, Chief Information Officer, or CTO, Chief Technology Officer, or whatever, one of these C-level type of roles. And when you attach your self-worth to a title, it makes it certainly very, very difficult to leave. And then, like I said before, sure, if a company's paying you a couple $100,000 a year, do you think you could do more? Ask anybody who's watching this, do you think you can do better? And if the answer is yes, then you have to give yourself a chance, because our life on this planet is finite. We are not here forever. And we often live our lives as if we are going to be here, and we're not. And you can spend it one of 2 ways. You can either stay plugged into the matrix and getting paid every 2 weeks, living the way you're living today, or you can take a chance on yourself. You can bet on a sure thing, bet on yourself. And it's really, it's up to you as to how much effort you want to put into what you're doing to build the success that, if anybody does it properly, they're capable of doing. They can make it happen. It just takes a lot of work when you start off.
So tell us about that C-level, like the C job, the chief job that you had, and then what really got you to where you are today, to where you realized it's better for me to be obviously on my own, be successfully unemployed. What was that process, and what was it like to actually quit?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, when as I rose to the ranks, hitting the C level eventually, I had my undergrad in engineering technology. I did 2 master's degrees. I went to school forever. Very expensive proposition, as you can imagine, and went from job to job to job. Oftentimes, what I found is that, and I think this is true for any C-level type of job, not just technology, but in general, the higher up you go in corporate, the harder it is to find another job, generally speaking, meaning that it takes longer to find a job because there's fewer of those jobs. Like there's only one CIO typically in a company, or one CEO or one CFO. There's one of those individuals in any given corporation, as opposed to, as you go down the ranks, there's many directors, there's a lot of managers, and there's a lot of employees, right? So you're competing, as you go up the ladder, so to speak, you're competing against many other sharp individuals. These are not dummies. Like if you're at the C level, you're competing with a bunch of other smart cookies just like you are. So they get, the hiring manager gets to choose who they want to get. And the thing is that it takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of time to apply for jobs over and over and over and over again. It just does, and you can spend it one of two ways. Like I said, you can either go apply for jobs or hone the skills you need to build your own success. Sure, it's going to take longer to get to your income level that you had previously if you're starting from zero. Sure it is. But again, you take your time back to do whatever you want it to do, to do what you want. But I'll tell you, when I was in corporate, I was making beaucoup bucks, living in a nice condo by the water, had a nice fancy car, had all that stuff. But, there was times when I crack open LoopNet. I know LoopNet's the place where deals go to die. I didn't know that at the time, but I would open up LoopNet, look at some multifamilies. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. And then I would just glance at it. And then what I would do, hit the little X in the top corner, close the window. Why? Because why should I work that much harder? And that was the mentality, which is incorrect, by the way. I'm not saying it's the right way to be. It was wrong on my part, because I was comfortable. I was making good money. My boss loved me and everything was great. That is until my boss bounces, new guy comes in, hates my guts. Next thing you know, they're handing you the box. You know the box I'm talking about, the box where all your stuff is. Pack up your stuff, get out, you're gone. And it's like, man, that can happen to anybody. It can happen to anybody. I was doing exactly what I was supposed to be doing. The company was very poor before I got there in terms of technology performance. I got in, fixed the network, got rid of some bad apples, bring in some great people. We ended up increasing our uptime significantly. It made no difference to the new guy. He didn't care. He wanted his own guys in there. So it can happen to anyone. It happens every single day. And that's why today, taking your future in your own hands, even if you are working in corporate and you are happy what you're doing, having multiple streams of income, even if it's entirely passive, is something that is now it's available to just about anybody. I didn't even know it was available. I had no idea you could do self-directed IRAs and all this other stuff. I had no idea that was even a thing, And it's huge. It's important to do that kind of stuff because, again, you never know when your number's up. Right now, we're in an economy where the dollar's losing value every single day, every single minute. We're printing off more cash and we're sending it off overseas. That's a problem. And who's going to pay for that? Well, eventually we do, so as taxpayers, and it's going to start sucking. It's going to get worse before it gets better, so you have to be prepared by having multiple streams of income. Absolutely have to. You absolutely have, at a minimum.
Real estate's, yeah, I completely agree with that. So real estate's one of them, and apartment complexes, which is great. So what do you hold? Is it also residential? Do you have any storage units? Like, is it multifamily? What do you have in your portfolio?
Yeah, good question. So we started off our business essentially with multifamily, right? We bought a lot of B and C class stuff, mostly C class assets, acquire, fix them, value add, cash flow them, that kind of scenario. Now, as the pricing of the C class assets for other assets here in the local market started rising up, and I guess you could say the cost of debt started going up as well. It started not making any sense to take on the risk of buying a C class asset for the expensive money with all the rate caps and all these other things you have to get on top of it. It didn't make any financial sense to do those deals, and I think that it just didn't make any financial sense. But one thing, it's also market specific too, right? And this specific market here in Cleveland, Ohio, where I'm at now, they hadn't built quality new housing in a very, very, very long time. So we saw this as an opportunity to start developing. So that's the second part of our business, is to develop new product. So we're doing ground up developments. We're doing redevelopments like this one here, the Rockefeller Building in downtown Cleveland. We're going to be building 436 units here, and we're building in areas where there's a strong amount of jobs, strong amount of incomes, right? Urban infill mostly is what we're targeting these days, like areas where there's already a lot of activity where we can build up another asset in that local market. For instance, in this deal, there's a Sherwin-Williams is building the world headquarters 200 feet away from me right now, right across the street. So I'm very comfortable in the sense that this asset is going to perform just fine. And once it's finished. So we have stuff like this. We're doing ground up. These types of deals obviously take a little bit longer to cash flow, right? We raise our capital, we put it into the deal. You wait, 12, 18 months, depending on the size of the asset. And then at the end, you start cash flowing it. But then what we also started doing is the net lease business, which is our third line of business. And what we do there, we have a blind pool and we acquire Dollar General, Dollar Tree, Vetcor, Family Dollar, CVS, Walgreens, whatever, stores single tenant stores that people know, love, and trust. We acquire these assets, we buy the lease, we buy the property, we buy the building, we buy the land, we buy all of it, right? So what that means, though, is that you have a steady stream of monthly income. No matter what happens in the economy, these assets always perform. Right. So we did that as an offering to our investors. So if they want to get in and get some monthly steady cash flow, net lease is a great way to do that. That's why we did that. So given that primarily these days we're focused primarily on development and net lease, on the multifamily side, you have to be very, very, very careful about what you're getting into these days. Every market has a deal. You have to know what you're buying. It's extremely important to know what you're buying right now.
Oh, totally. Especially with rising interest rates, you have potential. I think we're in a recession, at least it seems like we are, especially with interest rates, inflation, problems in war and all that. Like it's going to be a lot of turmoil coming here pretty soon. So I love the idea of bulletproof cash flow. So when you're talking about creating something like bulletproof, I love the multiple streams of income. And for me, my multiple streams of income flow into my river of income, which is my real estate investing. It all goes back into real estate investing because that's just so tangible and it makes me so much money. And then it's generational wealth that I would literally give to my kids. So talk to us about bulletproof cash flow.
Absolutely. So like the name intends, this is not just a name to me, right? This is meant to be a call to action. Is what it's meant to be, right? I don't do crypto. I don't do NFTs. I don't do any of this nonsense, right? It really is. I mean, I hate to offend people's ears. It's nonsense. It really is, right? It's because all of it is based on fiat currency, the US dollar, which is by definition, fiat currency. It's not backed by anything but us paying taxes, right? Every single fiat currency ever been in existence has gone to zero. 100% of the time, the US dollar is no different. It will happen. It's inevitable. I would rather build bulletproof cash flow buying real assets like this asset right here. It's a real building. I'm sitting in it right now. As long as there's people in here paying rent, paying leases, whatever we're calling today, we'll call it cash. Tomorrow we'll call it bits. It doesn't matter. There's still income coming into your account, no matter what it is, right? So no matter what happens, that's the great thing about doing this whole bulletproof cash flow scenario, is that we're the assets that we're getting are backed by real assets, real estate, and with the whole concept around building multiple streams of income. That's essentially what it is.
So if I were to get started doing that, what would you say? Not just like get started, because we definitely need to get started, but what would be the first step in developing this bulletproof? I can't say this for some reason. Bulletproof cash flow. I think it's like, I definitely get tongue tied on that. But bulletproof cash flow, if we were to build that in, we got to start somewhere. Like, what's the first step? Is it buying real estate? And so tell me about, where do we start?
Yeah, sure. I started the hard way. I started by accident, so to speak. When I first realized I could syndicate deals, I didn't know what syndication even was. Like I just didn't know. And I read books. I learned from calling friends. And as anybody will tell you, if you're starting from zero and you just start calling people, you're very rarely going to get a phone call back, if ever. You just won't, right? It's somewhat tough to do. I think that the great way, what I would have done, the way I would have started is, we have the Cash Flow Deal Maker Club on Facebook. Start there. Get into a group of other people just like you that want to learn this business. Engage with the community. But I think the second thing to do is to get into an actual group that's doing deals, not dumb deals, not stupid deals, actual good deals. And I say that because there's a lot of dumb deals out there. I see them every day. I don't get it. I just don't understand them, right? They're tremendously expensive. The numbers just don't make any sense to me. But there's a lot of good deals too. Part of it is you really have to engage with the community, and then you know what? Pay for mentorship. Do it. I mean, if you're able to get in and use someone else's background, their credentials, and learn from the mistakes that they did. Okay, so fine, you spend $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 on a program. You might look at it as, oh my God, it's going to cost me $8,000. Look at it from the upside instead. If you're able to shave off time that we have a limited amount of time on this planet, if they could save you 6 months of time, 8 months of time, isn't that time worth $8,000? How about the mistakes that you're going to make? You end up getting into a partnership on your personal name as opposed to doing it under an LLC. Then you get into bed with a bad partner who decides after some amount of time that they want to try to sue you now. You can get it. That could happen to you. That could be a thing. And now to deal with that could cost you thousands of dollars to deal with that. Where if you were in a group like ours, for instance, I would recommend, no, don't even do that deal. Skip it altogether. And here's why. There's a variety of different things you could either do by yourself or get into a group, spend a little bit of extra time and effort and money to really get engaged and use someone else's background to get into those types of deals. You'll get access to deals that you would never get on your own if you're part of an organization. Because I'll tell you what, that's the hardest thing. I mean, when I was first starting out, I didn't have anybody. I did it, like I said, I did it the hard way. I had to hit the phones, call the brokers, create a credibility book to get in front of people. And no one showed me how to do it. I had to do it I had to figure it out. And it would have saved me so much time. And imagine how much time I would have saved if I could have used someone else's background and said, yeah, my partners and I have 1,000 units. It's like, that's pretty cool. Even if my partner had a majority of the units, that's fine. It works. At least you'll get someone's attention, right? So that's the cool thing about getting into a group like this, is that you're able to leverage other people's experience, other people's know-how, and get deals done. So it's a real slow going about your own. And I think that in any business, speed is incredibly important. And if you're a high action individual, you got to get in and you got to hurry. You're running out of time.
I think you're 100% right. Because if you're going to be doing anything, let's say just pick one thing like real estate investing, you're going to either spend or pay with your time or pay with your money. And so you're 100% right. And the only commodity that you spend and never ever get any back is time. And so if you, like you said, spend a little money to where you could shave off the time. I'll give you a quick example. So I started investing and it took me about 8 years to be able to have enough properties to be able to quit my job. Now I have students that I'm coaching because I've figured out the wrong ways to do it, took that out of my business, kept all the good ways in. And now with that, I have students in 2 or 3 years being able to have enough properties so that they make passive income every single month. But I save them, let's say 3, 4, 5, 6 years if they were trying to do it on their own, not to mention all the money that we save them. So I love that. Now, with that, what does a good deal look like? And because you said there are a lot of bad deals, how do we make sure that we're finding a good deal? And what does a good deal look like?
Wow. So good deal is not just the property itself, believe it or not. The property is obviously a big part of it, right? If you find a nice B-class asset in an A-class area, all right, we just actually bought one of those assets recently. You know, we're going to take it, we're going to renovate it, we're going to turn it into A-class apartments. That happens very rarely. You find such a thing, right? But I think what's also important, though, aside from finding that combination, today it matters now more than ever, trying to find those like a C-class asset in a B type of area where it's like the asset that you're buying is one grade below the area that you're buying, okay? Because as you know, assets have a grade, areas have a grade, brokers have a grade, right? All these different grades, right? And you have to kind of balance them, right? Like some broker, well, I don't want to get into the brokers. I'll just leave it at that. But once you do that, then what happens next? Well, the debt. Right now, debt is tremendously expensive. So you have to find the right debt for the asset that you're buying. The debt needs to include how much are you getting in rehab if you need a rehab, which I would assume you would. What is the interest rate? Do you have to buy a rate cap? A rate cap is think of it as like insurance they're gonna cover a certain amount in case if you have a floating interest rate, your interest rate rises above a certain amount, that they'll kick up some cash. But even if it goes above that, you still have to pay out of your own pocket. It gets tremendously expensive if you don't buy enough rate cap insurance, with air quotes, right? And all these different things matter, and all these different things need to go into your model. How much are taxes going to be? Taxes are going up for everybody, everyone across the board. Property taxes are going to be going up. Every market's experiencing this, right? So you have to account for that. Insurance is getting crushed right now because of all these natural disasters down south. Well, they pass along those miraculous savings or expenditures over to guys like us, even here in the Midwest. You know, so someone's got to pay for it. Insurance is going up across the board. All these things need to be accounted for when you're putting these deals together, right? So it's no longer a very easy type of slam a deal together. You really have to know your numbers. And it's I mean, you have to know before. Now it's even more important. The types of deals that we're doing today, for instance, here we're very active in the Cleveland market, because the deals that we're finding right now as new development deals, or ground up development, we're finding opportunity zone type deals, which helps shield any type of income for a long period of time. And there's also 15-year tax abatement as well. So if you're taking a bunch of cash, you're putting it into the deal, tax-free basically, and then you're not paying any taxes on the asset that you're building. And we're building A-class assets, so with premium rent demand, the end result is going to be a good, solid return, right? So those are the types of deals we're doing, and it's still very, very, very competitive compared to what's happening down south. A lot of people are developing down there too, but they're paying taxes on all that income, so it works out very, very well. You know, we have.
Is that just in Cleveland?
Right now, we're just doing just Cleveland. That's it. I'm a real big believer in focusing on one market.
Yeah, no, I definitely with you on that. And so Cleveland, in that market, I have property in Maple Heights. Obviously, you know where Maple Heights is, and really, really good market. And I like how you're focusing on obviously also increasing the value of the area and helping out in that regard too. So if we're going to find a good deal, how do we make sure that we're making money, bulletproof cash flow? Like we want to make sure we're making money every single month. So let's say we get an apartment complex, we're investing in an apartment complex. How do we make sure we're making money? Because what I do with residential 4 units and below, we try to make sure we're making passive income, cash flow every single month. It's fairly simple in the numbers. You calculate your expenses, mortgage, taxes, insurance, things like that. It's very simple. And then you make sure you can rent it for a little more. When you get into bigger properties, especially things like CVS and all that sort of stuff, there's a lot more going on. So any advice that you can give us in that?
Underwrite conservatively. I mean, that's a trait that I've been doing 17 years now. I've been doing the same sort of thing, underwrite conservatively. And I remember when I was underwriting deals, I would underwrite deals with a 2% rent increase, 2%. When times were good, I was underwriting at a 2% rent increase and a 1% or 1.5% expense increase too. And if that didn't kill the deal, I'd feel very comfortable about it, right? I would also do, I try to do long-term fixed debt on the asset too. Back then, that's what I would do. I try to do that today. It's a little tougher to do in development these days because the banks are a little more skittish about doing those types of deals. So, underwriting conservatively, finding the right debt on the deal, and try to plan out what would happen if, because you're going to have tough times out there. Every business does. So part of it is not thinking that every day is going to be sunshine and rainbows in the world of real estate, right? Like I said before, I think I said this before. The bad days are when, I'd rather take a bad day in doing what I'm doing over a good day in corporate. The bad days are the ones you have to plan for. Those are the ones you plan for, and you plan for them by underwriting conservatively, by getting the right debt on the deal. And that's an underwriting. Underwriting is just so hard. That's why when in our group, when I mentioned before, if you underwrote a deal and you're not really sure about the deal, imagine sharing it with 50 other folks and say, hey, can someone take a look at this thing and just check my numbers, make sure I got this right? I mean, there's value there. I had no one doing that when I first started. I had to practice over and over and over again, until we got it right. So it certainly helps accelerate the learning time, because part of it is just practicing. You really have to know what the numbers are in that market. And I would also go so far as to also stay in your market. Really understand how your market works. That's why we hunker down and invest here locally, because I know my market and my market knows me. They know that I'm a credible buyer. If there's a deal to be had, they call me. So it's good to be in that position.
That's great. And I 100% agree. And that's one thing that I made sure as best I could to tell everybody, that I'm an investor. Like that's what I do. I'm an investor. Because if they know you as a plumber, well, then they'll call you about plumbing. They're not going to talk to you about investing. So you need to make sure that your name absolutely gets out. Now, Agostino, you've given us so much great advice and wisdom. Is there anything else that we might have missed? Anything that we definitely the underwriting, we have to be conservative in that. I 100% agree. Anything else that we might have missed?
A lot of talk in the media about how bad the economy is. It sucks. We are in a recession. I don't care what the media says. We are in a recession. We're in a technical recession, because the way that recessions have been defined over the past 30, 40 years are pretty much, by that definition, we are in one right now, meaning 2 quarters back to back of negative GDP. That's what it is. You can't just pick and choose certain things in a recessionary in the stack of recession definition and just say we're not. We are. So here's the thing, though. It's not all bad news. I think what needs to happen next is to plan accordingly, build those passive streams of income, but also there's an opportunity coming. And there will be assets to buy. There are assets to buy right now. You just got to know what you're looking for, And I think that if you keep your mind open, you can find the assets. But when you do, let's say for instance, you do sniff out a deal. If you can't underwrite it, if you don't have the people to help you, to back you up, you're never going to get a deal done. So that's why now you have to get into this business do it now while people are letting off the gas and hiding. They're hiding in fear. Now's the time to get in and run into it and learn all you can, because when things, the sun will come out tomorrow. And when it does, you want to be ready to take advantage of what's going to be coming. In this market alone, I heard of a guy selling 900 units. I just heard about it. So there's always a market. There's always a market. There's always something happening. So you have to be prepared. So I would recommend like joining the Cash Flow Deal Maker Club, totally free. You can do that, or whatever club you want. But stay active. Get into this. Don't not do it.
Absolutely. We don't want to put it off. In fact, one of my more favorite quotes is, when is the best time to plant a tree? Well, it was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. And you don't want to be thinking, man, 20 years ago, I was listening to Agostino and I wanted to invest. But you don't want to be that. You want to be the opposite. You say, I'm so glad when I listened to Agostino on the show that I started investing. That's how you want to be. Now, Agostino, you give us so much great advice. How can people find you if they want to reach out to you and hear your podcast?
Sure. Bulletproofcashflow.com. We have a 400 videos, I think, something like that, on YouTube. We're on Libsyn. We're on iTunes. We're even on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We're everywhere. So yeah, check it out.
That's great. Agostino, thank you so much for being on the show, man. I really appreciate you.
You bet. Thanks for having me on.